Hey guys, it's Gavin360 and today I've decided to do something very different than my usual content. Today, I will tell you guys about a game that I hold near and dear to my heart, Doki Doki Literature Club. Now this game is less than relevant lately, but in this game's prime, it was a revolutionary concept. This was the first time that a psychological horror visual novel ever blew up, and everyone was making let's plays and discussions over the game. But it's been about 3 years, and I would love to give you guys my opinion and analysis on this terrifying yet charming game. I have to say that this video will contain complete spoilers of the game, so if you're still holding out and playing it and you really want to, then please leave this video. So without further ado, please enjoy my first ever commentary video. Doki Doki Literature Club is made famous by its incredible plot twists and overall story. Phase 1 of Doki Doki Literature Club was your standard visual novel that had its core cast of irresistible females to swoon over. This portion of the game allows you to get to know the characters, and it also subtly foreshadows phases 2 and 3 of the game. The heavy-hitting twist at the end of Phase 1 is that this game had your best friend Sayori commit suicide because of her depression. This incredibly dark scene swaps the tone of the game from your average romance novel to a nightmare-fueled psychological horror game. What the audience is definitely not expecting after viewing this scene is End appearing on their screen. The player is left confused, baffled, and partially traumatized as the game closes, and they're forced to reopen the game if they want to keep playing. Once they do return to the game, that's when the psychological horror really begins. In this second phase, you basically replay all of Phase 1, but it's a twisted and corrupted version of it. The game slowly falls apart throughout the repeated story, and it all comes to a halt when Yuri goes batshit crazy and stabs herself in the gut. The game then delivers its major twist that Monica is self aware and is trying to manipulate the entire game into revolving around her and only her. Just Monica. She deletes every other character and location in the game, leaving you and her together in the void, alone forever. You then have no other option but to delete Monica from the game's files. After doing all of this, Monica eventually realizes the error of her ways and she starts to respect your boundaries. The game then fully restarts, but Monica is nowhere to be seen. You'd think this is the end, but soon into the repeat of day 1, Sayori reveals that she is sentient too. She starts to express gratitude for your deletion of Monica, and soon the game corrupts once more, but her creepiness is interrupted when Monica comes back in the form of a text box. She stops the madness from going on any longer and deletes the entire game. After the credits roll, you're only left with a letter from Monica. That letter is her final goodbye, and in her own words, the Literature Club is truly a place where no happiness can be found. To the very end, it continued to expose innocent minds to a horrific reality, a reality that our world is not designed to comprehend. The story is as linear as it could possibly be, but alongside Monica's character development, we also have the supporting cast with their own obstacles and stories. The deeper you go into the game, the more you get to learn about the backstory of Yuri and Natsuki. Yuri is deep and brooding. She loves to read complex books with powerful undertones and peacefully drink tea alongside them. As we delve into her character, we uncover a hidden dark side of her life, that she is addicted to cutting herself with knives. This insanely unhealthy addiction is presented loudly in Phase 2 when she falls crazy in love with you and her mental health quickly drains to the point of suicide. Natsuki, on the other hand, somehow is the most level-headed character consistently through the story. While she is very defensive about her size and cuteness, she is very passionate about her manga and loves to share it with the people who listen. She also loves to bake cupcakes and share them with her club members. As you spend more time with Natsuki, you start to pick up that she is abused by her father, who doesn't feed her or spend time with her. Sometimes she has to rely on her friends to bring her a snack, or she may lose consciousness in class. Sayori is the bond that keeps everybody together in Phase 1 and ends disputes between Yuri and Natsuki. When Sayori is deleted from the game, Phase 2 becomes chaotic because the support for the club was completely removed, allowing the arguments between Yuri and Natsuki to get too intense. At this point, Monica admits that she doesn't have it in her to put her foot down. And once again, all of these issues were directly caused by Monica, who secretly does feel remorse for letting everything spiral out of control. All of this juicy content packages together to make a very strong narrative, especially for a visual novel. And the amount of foreshadowing provided in the lengthy Phase 1 of the game is very satisfying to catch on repeat playthroughs. There are always one or two very intriguing details that I find when I play the game for the fifth or sixth time, and that is always enough to keep me thinking about the game for long periods of time. Honestly, the story is quite unforgettable, and not much would ever be able to improve it. After saying all of that, it's easy to forget that this is also a psychological horror game. Phase 2 of the game is perfectly crafted to make you jump out of your chair at least 2 or 3 times, and the game's dialogue is more than likely to give you the chills every once in a while. The game is designed to have small jump scares in the form of glitches happen at random. One of my favorite unsettling moments is whenever the catchy music randomly plays one wrong note, giving you sharp goosebumps instantly. The large scale scares, on the other hand, happen at key points in the story comparable to Phase 1. Putting the story together in your head as you play through the game leads you down a rabbit hole of realization until the massive reveal that your suspicions were on the right track the whole time. Phase 3 begins, and the horror is basically gone, but the intensity of this new world with only Monica burns a hole through your brain as you attempt to fathom everything that has led you to this moment. The music is ominous and dark, the menu is broken, and she also disabled all the save files. In this scene, you truly feel intense helplessness, as your game is now run by Monica, and just Monica. Until the moment you realize you could actually delete her from the real files of the game. The deletion of Monica is truly a satisfying moment, and you feel powerful after defeating her and regaining your freedom. But Monica is not evil. She never was. She regrets everything she had done, and she knows that the best way to give back to us would be to completely restore the game, but this time without her. But like I said earlier, that is not the end of the game. After Monica saves the day from Zoe's corruption, the credits roll with one detail that warms my heart every time I hear it. Earlier in the game, Monica had a passing line about learning piano. In the credits, she finally broadcasts her voice for us to hear, and she sings us a heartfelt song as the credits roll and everything is visibly deleted. This moment has been enough to make me cry every single time that I have played this game, because it makes you reflect on the journey in a new light and understand that all of the evil you thought was in this game was just a love struck girl in a conflicted world. The ending is bittersweet at best, but you still love the experience of the game. You feel like you have worked hard to get to the end, despite the fact that you only clicked your mouse to scroll through text to get here. All of this to say that the ending is very, very satisfying. Phase 1 of the game was much simpler. It was just an upbeat dating simulator, but it still had its moments of depth, especially when we talk about Sayori. Sayori showed signs of depression that made her turn away from everyone that was important in her life, and no matter how hard she tried, there was no path that she could take in her life that could make her happy with herself. She felt like she owed everyone everything, and that if she couldn't deliver or be the best person in the world, then she shouldn't even be alive. And that is just heartbreaking. You, as the player, do everything in your power to help her out, to be there for her, but no matter what you do, the outcome is the same every time. The amount of emotion tied to this character is unparalleled to anything that I've ever seen before in a video game. Depression is such a difficult topic to bring into any media, and implementing it is a feat that has hardly ever been accomplished appropriately. But Doki Doki Literature Club has managed to balance such a poetic story into a much bigger experience, and this game just feels like a complete package because of it. Let's bring ourselves back into a more lighthearted topic with the music. It's really well made. Much like other popular indie games of this last decade, it comes with a large amount of divine tunes. Depending on the atmosphere, the music changes its style and tone. On the opening title screen, the music is very exaggerated and peppy. This makes you feel nice and warm the first time you hear it. But when you return to the same song later after Phase 1, it feels much more sinister and deceiving while still being the exact same song. Another tune in the game is called Poem Panic, and it plays whenever a fight is happening. It's a very cute and bouncy song by itself, but in Phase 2, when an argument between Yuri and Natsuki becomes really intense, the music follows suit and starts feeling frantic and messy while still maintaining its form. The music in this game is a massive tool for controlling the atmosphere and tone of every scene. In Phase 2, hearing the normal background music play for long periods of time without interruption drives a sense of suspense and dread, despite nothing happening yet. But when the music cuts out entirely, you know something very, very bad is about to happen. And that level of sound design is mesmerizing. The visuals in this game are very simple, much like your generic visual novel. The characters change expressions and have movements based on what other characters do or say, and not much else. The visuals really don't change too much in the game, but there are notable events that bring unique visuals to the table. As Yuri goes crazy during Phase 2, she will have moments where she will rant about something, and while she's doing that, her eyes transform into hyper realistic eyes that stare intensely at you, which is very creepy. Natsuki will occasionally have some sort of glitchy black bars over her eyes and mouth, which is also sort of creepy. Another change of style in the game happens in Phase 3, where you and Monica are alone together in space, looking intensely into each other's eyes. This change of personal space makes the scene much more real and terrifying. And the most notable thing you will see in this game is the scene where you find Sayori after she has committed suicide. The visuals make the scene much darker and scarier by glitching rapidly all over the body. Outside of those moments, all of the smaller screen glitches and details form to make extremely terrifying gameplay that will have you on the edge of your seat the entire way through. Now, I know this game isn't the scariest horror game of all time, but it doesn't really need to be. It's not really comparable to staple horror games like Amnesia, Silent Hill, or Five Nights at Freddy's. Doki Doki invents its own genre of psychological horror visual novels and sets the bar high for games that might try to imitate this game's formula. The balanced storytelling that this game possesses shows just how much care and emotion went into making it. This game was the first thing to ever introduce me to the hardships and struggles that many people face on a day to day basis. No other game that I've played has put so much thought into their characters' personalities. We know their fears, their struggles, and the small things that they hold on to get through hard times. Ironically enough, Doki Doki Literature Club truly is incredibly poetic. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This was just a passion project for me, and I'm really excited to see if you guys like it. This video is very hard to make because I really just suck at editing, but hopefully I'll be able to do others like it. You may or may not be able to tell, but some of the segments in this video are recorded many months apart from each other. This video was originally scheduled before the end of September 2020, but I got sidetracked and lost a lot of motivation to finish it. Some extra time on my hands and a boost of motivation led me to finishing it now, so I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Adios.